Welcome back to Fox and Friends. We told you we have a big show, and we do. President Trump looking back at 2018 as a winning year for American workers.
In a tweet, he writes, 2018 is being called, quote, the year of the worker by Steve Moore, co-author of Trumponomics. It was indeed a great year for the American worker with the best jobs market in 50 years and the lowest unemployment rate ever for blacks and Hispanics, and all workers big wage gains. Well, here to react to that and many other things, bring in Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch.
Well, he's right about that. I mean, particularly the bottom 10% of the economy, those wages went up the most. And what people forget is that the reason why the border is so important, if you cut the slack at the border and you lower the labor force of illegals, you're going to raise the wages for people that are here, like African American and Hispanic American.
At the lowest rungs of our
exactly.
economy.
And so, I mean, so one of the brilliant pieces of the president's strategy, it's not just to protect people, Kate's Law, et cetera, but it's also to help American working class families have a rising living standard.
But how did that message not break through in the suburbs?
Right.
Like for the House races, we keep hearing, well, it was the suburbs, and that's why the Democrats won. But why is this wonderful message about the workers not breaking through?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I think it's starting to. I think if you're asking specifically about the midterm elections, I think what basically happened there is that the people that went with the president, Ed, did very, very well. The people that broke from the president as Republicans did not do well. And so he gained seats in the Senate, but they would have been way better off if they had said, OK, I'm with the president on this, and they went full hog with the president. And I think they would have done way better.
You wrote the book, Trump, the Blue-Collar President, so you know of which you speak. Looking forward into 2019, what are the key elements of how he keeps the economy going?
So, I mean, three components of that. Number one, we've got to get more deregulation in the economy. Number two, I think he's got to start to attract more capital. One of the issues is that we've had a lot of share repurchases and things like that from American corporations, but we need more repatriation of capital back on the shore of the United States. And I think the third thing, which is also super important, is just the bully pulpit calming down the trade situation, which I believe he'll have a trade deal done with the Chinese in the next 90 to 100 days. And so if he does those three things, I think the market is
But his trade deal is not
I was
short.
here a week ago, said the market was at a bottom. Market's rallied about 5 or 7%. I'm not a market forecaster. I'm just looking at dividend discounted cash flows and looking where things are priced right now. They're very cheap.
Chinese officials overnight said very positive things about a potential trade deal, so we'll be watching that in the coming week. Something else breaking overnight. John Kelly, the outgoing White House chief of staff, told the LA Times about immigration, quote, to be honest, it's not a wall. They, as in the Border Patrol, said, well, we need a physical barrier in certain places, we need technology across the board, and we need more people. The president still says wall. Oftentimes, frankly, he'll say barrier or fencing. Now he's tended towards steel slats. But we left a solid concrete wall early on in the administration when we asked people what they needed and where they needed it. So you could say from a technical standpoint, maybe he's not making news. On the other hand, as the outgoing chief of staff, is he undermining the president's push for a quote-unquote wall when he says, we gave up the wall, it's just...
No, I don't think he's doing that. In fact, if anything, I think one of the successes that John had was as the Department of Homeland Security cabinet head. And so I think all he's basically saying is, like the president has said, they're adapting their strategy. There's certain parts of that border that you don't need anything. You know, you have very high mountain ranges, et cetera. And there are other areas, frankly, where you need a lot of fortification. So, but what we know is that it's working. You know, you're going to talk to Tom later. The crisis at the border is very small. I'm not trying to minimize it. Every life is a tragedy, of course, but it's very small, and the impact and the benefit to the economy and to America is very big. And so what I'm surprised about is that the Democrats, you're asking a question about the suburbs, I'm surprised that the Democrats are this lax on the wall. Maybe they need to eat a little bit of that bacon. You know, I see that bacon as more of conservative ideology and less of video games that Pete's mentioned.
It might actually finally backfire. I do think that the very tragic killing of this officer in California, Officer Singh, might be turning people's hearts and minds at a very critical time in this debate.
See, what they've done to the president on their side is they've tried to make him come across very bellicose, okay? But in fact, what he's basically doing is just offering up common sense. Right. And so I just think as we move into 2019 and you look at the president's strategies, no matter what they are, on the economy, taxes, regulation, they're common sense and very commercial to benefit Americans, period, the end. And so, you know, he's going to Davos again this year. I think there's a dichotomy in his personality where he needs to be part of the global system. He recognizes that, but he just wants to put a priority on the American citizens that he's representing.
One other nugget from that article in the LA Times with the interview with John Kelly that just came out. They asked him, because there's so much palace intrigue and speculation, they asked, well, why did you stay so long? And John Kelly said, military people don't walk away. Why was there always this poking and prodding that, well, he's out the door?
You know, I don't know. I mean, he blew me out on his first day, so I wasn't
exactly
really there.
His biggest defender.
Yeah, I'm not really his biggest fan. Having said that, I do admire his service to the country. At the end of the day, 40 years of service to the country as a U.S. Marine, I applaud him. I just think he was probably not the right guy in that job, and so I think there was probably some frustration related to him and related to his personality and also the way he was interacting with
John
staff.
Kelly out, is there any chance Scaramucci would be in?
No, there's no chance.
You're done. You would never go back.
It's not that I would never go back. It's like my wife is listening right now. She's throwing socks at the TV. She's like, Scaramucci would definitely go back. Don't listen to him. There's not going to be an opportunity for me to go back. And by the way, Ed, I'm back running my business, and it's been a lot of fun to run my business.
Let's talk a little bit about.
And I'm writing books, and Pete's got a new book coming out, so we got to help him with that.
One of your businesses we should disclose. You have a small interest in the New York Mets. I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
We go through your winners and losers, and I understand. Let's start with the winner. The winners. Well,
I think, first of all, let's talk about Alabama. I was watching that game last night. Saban is amazing. I never seen anybody that miserable beating up on a team. I don't know if you saw his.
He's winning, and he looks like
He's like Belichick.
This guy is like totally for me, okay? You know, we better play better next. I mean, these guys are like a machine. I've never seen anything like that. So that's clearly, you know, I predict they will be the national champions.
What is that Mets logo all about?
So the Mets is a different thing. I'm talking about the off season, okay? Because you have to remember, right now the Mets are tied.
When they play the games.
Right now the Mets are tied for first place. Thank you.
The
Thank
season
you, God.
that doesn't count. Yeah.
And so I can't tell you what's going to happen in April, but they picked up some good pitching.
You mean like the really bad contract of Robbie Cano?
Well, okay, so the Cano contract, they're you know, obviously the
aging guy.
The Seattle guys are defusing it, but the kid Diaz can really throw. He's going to be a great closer for the National League.
Okay, Anthony, tell us
hope
about.
springs eternal for Met fans.
Tell us about your loser. Who's your loser pick?
So, I mean, I think the biggest loser this year is actually China and Facebook. If you look at the Chinese stock market and their economy, they have actually been devastated by the president's strategy. At the end of the day, we're 24% of the global economy. The hurt that we put on them, if you just look at their stock market, their currency, I think they missized the president's negotiating capabilities. And so I think they come to the table on intellectual property and other things. And I think you're going to be looking out April, May, where the president's got the deal that he wants, better for the American people. And most CEOs that probably don't eat bacon, they're probably vegans at the other channel, but most CEOs will be scratching their heads and saying, hey, you know what? The guy's doing a very, very good job.
He has long-term thinking on that.
So China, but then I would say Twitter, I would also add Facebook. If you think about what happened to Franklin Graham, these guys are just extensions now of university campuses, very hard, left-leaning university campuses. And what I like about the right and us conservatives is that we're open to the free marketplace of ideas.
Right.
10-second New Year resolution.
I got to stop eating bad stuff, okay, like everybody else.
Like pasta.
Me and Ed are going on a sugar-free diet, okay? I'll see how we look in June.
Thank you for being here, sir. We'll have you back in June.
Good luck with that.
All right, well.
Hopefully I'll be back sooner than that.
I think you will be.
All right, I appreciate that.